Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell, joined as always by Zach Bartle. Zach, what's going on, man, other than the fact that I totally slacked off when I was on vacation and you can get those 2 episodes uploaded?
I didn't point it out to our entire listener base, if that's what you're wondering.
There wasn't a tweet or a Facebook message that went out.
The thing is, you happen to, I almost said you picked the time. I know you didn't pick it. It picked you in God's good sovereignty. But it happened to be right when, out of nowhere, Ted Cluck and I start going week by week consistently for the summer of Gut Check.
I know.
So it was just bizarre for these 2 podcasts to go from one of them is every time there's 9 blood moons in a year and John Hagee goes crazy, and now it's every week. And then the one that's usually every week is just mysteriously absent for a couple weeks. It was,
yeah.
And I think we've got 3 in a row here. Correct me if I'm wrong. With Greg Dutcher, and I think 3 makes a pattern, and maybe people could push for. Is there a hashtag?
I know, right?
Bring back Dutcher and keep Zach.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. I want that kind of level of demand in my home first.
So, Greg, does that mean we're never going to see you?
I was going to say, our chances are ebbing away to nothing here. If I get that kind of demand to come home, it's bad when you tell your kids, I took a couple of days off before we went to the beach last week to just get ready and help with some things. And Isaac came down one morning and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, Isaac, I took off today." I said, "Isn't that cool?" He goes, "Eh." Wow.
I acknowledge that it happened.
Yes. It was a rousing start to the vacation. But then I will say, in fairness to him, since I did mention him by name, when I went back yesterday, he said he missed me. So that felt good.
Okay.
That felt good. But then it lasted. Yeah. When I got home, it was all over again. So, but yeah, I'd say, man, if there's a hashtag movement to bring the Dutch dog back, it'll inflate my ego, and that'll be good. Wait, that's not bad. That's bad, right? There's a
You'd like the option to say no? Is that the thing?
Well, exactly. I just want to be wanted.
Rent to own.
Right. Exactly. Give me options, man. No, that was a blast, man, talking to, let's see, because it was, the first one was the 3 of us.
Yep, the sabbaticals.
Sabbatical one.
Yep.
I don't think I got my line in there, did I? That my buddy Todd Brochard, shout out to Todd, who's probably never listened, but now I'll tell him to listen to it because of that. He told me, he goes, "Dutcher, why don't you call this thing what it is? 4 months, you not working, you're going to be found in every dining establishment in the Baltimore area." He said, thus renaming your experience from the sabbatical to the sofatical.
Nathan, don't tell him that he actually did say that.
Yeah. Oh, I did say that, man.
No, you didn't say it. You know who said it?
Yeah.
It was the Reverend Dr. James King when he welcomed me on board.
Oh, you're right.
So that's who you got it from.
Yeah, Brochard is mining the wonderful good Reverend Doctor.
Hey, maybe that's our leak.
Yeah, that could be, man. That could be. There's got to be a leak somewhere. But
someone tell him. I almost made a reference to politics. I'm so glad I didn't finish that thought.
Oh my goodness, man.
Well, gentlemen, we are here to celebrate the 200th episode of These Go to 11.
Wow.
And we would have had more people on, but Steve Hartland just blew us off. So
yeah, man.
We still have hopes.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, God rest his soul as he's eating Chunky Monkey and watching Netflix. So we're completely forgetting about his appearance tonight.
We do have some texts out to him, so he may join us for a call in a little while. But until that point, we're just gonna rock and roll with this thing. And before we get going here, we do want to give a shout out to Missional Wear because Greg, when we did the recording for the 100th episode, I don't think they were sponsors for us yet, were they?
I don't think that they were. I think
you're
right.
So 200 episodes later, I don't know, whenever they joined us between the 100th and 200th, Missional Wear took us up and they were like, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We want you to promote us." And we've been doing that ever since and have been enjoying free stuff. Well, you and I more than Zach. Zach eventually will enjoy some more free stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you not don't record this part. The stuff that's supposed to be going to Zach that goes to that P.O. box in Forest Hill, Maryland. If you just keep that going. That'd be great. Hey, man, we were at Myrtle Beach last week, and I'm happy to say I was still rocking my V's Go to 11 icy cold Yeti.
Nice.
And it's still holding up great. And I've had that thing for, a year and a half. And trust me, if you're in the Dutcher van, I mean, inanimate objects or organic objects, they are battle tested in that ride. So that was shout out to Missional Wear, man. They've been great.
Nice. So Zach, I know you're just kind of getting into these Go to 11 Missional Wear wave here. But what are some of the products that you enjoy? I mean, we're doing the 200th. We're going to be reflecting on some of the episodes and just kind of chilling and chatting and. Fun one. We're not doing it live this time, and I think that's better for everyone at this point.
That.
I listened to that. I listened to that and knew, you guys, what a freaking gong show!
Oh my goodness, dude, that thing. You know what, dude? Gong show is like. Do you guys remember the old? Like when I was a preteen, my wife said she did this stuff too. You would do living room shows for your family.
Yeah.
My old living room shows were better than that 100. I mean it. If we could have recorded, just go back to 1982 and take one of my living room shows where my brother and I are acting out, I kid you not, the pilot to The Greatest American Hero.
Oh, believe it or not, he is walking on air.
That's right. Right. Remember that interesting detail, dudes? Who's the dude that attempted to assassinate Reagan? Wasn't that Hinckley? His name?
John Hinckley, yeah.
And if you remember, guys, that was the character. That was his name.
Yeah.
And then, they changed his name to Hamill or something. You can Google that.
Yeah.
Because they took a month hiatus. Dude, what are we going to do, man? The main character's named Hinckley. And he just tried to kill the president. And anyway, what was my point? Yes.
His sidekick is Osama bin Laden. Oh, bin Laden. He's Irish.
Oh, bin Laden. Dude, that is good, man. That is good. But yeah, those living room shows of my yesteryear childhood, Trump, and maybe that's pun intended, the 100th live episode. Remember, I don't know if she's still listening. We had a sweet listener, I think Jacinda was her name, who tried to call in.
Artist.
Yes, we couldn't even take her phone call.
Yeah, she tried 3 or 4 times to call in, and it just busted.
Yeah, she's probably not listening anymore. Hey, so Jacinda, please come back to us. Listen to how professional we are now.
You guys have no idea, man. She listens to Gut Check at least because I called her back to Twitter after she had left.
Yeah,
and she came back.
Nice.
Who knew I had such sway?
Dude, well, call her back to the These Go to 11 fold.
Jacinda, come on back home, Shades XJ. Yeah. You need to look at this, you guys. Have you seen the picture? And I don't mean to cross-contaminate, don't cross the streams, etc. But I said I want one of the artists to listen because Jacinda's a crazy good artist.
Yeah.
And there's another lady named Megan Tennant who drew these things for Happy Rant. Ted on a horse and all this.
Yeah.
She did the thing of me and Ted in the limo, it was made. Have you seen it?
Yes, I saw it on Twitter.
It is so dope,
dude.
I'll have to see if I can find that. That was great. I'll have to see if I can pull that up and show it to Greg. Yeah, I did. That was fantastic.
She's like the new Peter Voth. If she did one for These Go to 11, it'd be basically all the that's the trifecta right there, and she'd be moving in on his monopoly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, dude, I like that you called her back. Hey, I'm telling you what, Nathan, I will front the cost of a book or something. I mean, we need a good book, so it can't be one of Zach's. We've got to have.
Oh!
Wait, I'm sorry. Was that recorded? We need to have a book or a CD. Does anyone listen to CDs anymore? We'll send out to her.
Here we go. This is.
Oh, dude, that is incredible.
Guys, I feel excluded.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, I mean, nothing is better and more professionally rich than two of the podcasters looking at a picture on Nathan's cell phone that nobody else can see. I mean, this is
Hans,
subtlety.
babe, it's radio, not television. What are you looking at?
Exactly.
I just pulled up the limo picture
Dude,
for Greg.
that
So
is rich.
Ah,
That is good.
nice.
Yeah.
I thought you had
Sweet.
a book you wanted to recommend there.
Oh man, that is good.
Yeah, she's incredible, man. There's a certain like Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes vibe to it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there
Like not
sure is.
like she's copying it, but like that kind of charm.
I agree. Yeah, looking at it right now, that is really good. Wow.
anyway, where were we?
Yeah.
Missional Wear. So
yeah,
Zach,
sorry,
what are-
Missional Wear. Well,
So
I've
here's
had
the answer to the question, man. I've already said how much I love my 2 T-shirts Jeff gave me.
Yeah.
I love. I've got a couple regular mugs, and I'm waiting. I just closed a deal, by the way, for season 2 of Clinch with Missional Wear and
nice.
Olive Tree. Between Olive Tree and Missional Wear, they're going to cover the thing, and so I should be getting some free product on that tip, and I might, just kind of say maybe that other podcast that I'm on, the one where every single week we say shout out to Missional Wear.
Yes, exactly. I like how he phrased that other podcast,
Yes.
which is the equivalent to "And the Rest" in the original Gilligan's Island theme song.
Or at the end of a Pauline epistle, right?
Right.
These 4 important people and the church in their house.
Oh man, that is good. That is good.
It's just so close to making it into the Bible, these guys.
That's great. I've got to say one of the things that I still love from Missional Wear that I got was my long sleeve T-shirt, the Post Tenebras Lux.
Nice.
I wear it all the time, and people are always asking me. I mean, they see the skeleton holding the lantern design on it, and so believers and unbelievers coming up to me and they're like, "Hey, that looks really cool. What is that?" And so being able to explain that to them and just
It's a metal band.
yeah, that's right. I want one.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the Calvinist movie that Missional Wear produced with
No. I've not
You didn't?
seen it. Did not.
No.
Oh yeah, it was Les Lampier from the Reformed pub, and a team up with collab with. Dude, you need to see it. But they're in the preview for it, and then obviously in the film, there's this moment where R.C. Sproul. I mean, this is like late in the game. This dude was like. He couldn't, how he would take out the oxygen and do like a 10-minute interview.
Yeah,
and
right.
This is when he couldn't even take it out. I mean,
Wow.
probably the last thing he did. And he was like describing the basics of the Reformation, and with his just amazing, even more epic than Dutcher's voice.
What? No
voice.
way, man.
And by a hair. He says the motto of the Reformation was post tenebras lex, out of darkness, and then the screen goes black, and then boom, and he goes light, and you get chills. Now, whenever I read that phrase, I hear it in Sproul's voice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, I'm the same way. If I ever come across certain phrases, I associate them with Sproul, like the beatific vision. I know that's not, his signature phrase. I think that existed long before Sproul, but I still remember that breathy voice and the chalk on the chalkboard. This is
Dude,
what the
it's so
theologians
good.
call the beatific vision. Oh yeah, man, Sproul. Hey,
Is there any way to get a hold of like the whole run of that renewing your mind stuff? I want to start every day with that, but I don't think they have them like. There's no like equivalent of Desiring God, but for Sproul, man, that guy was just a champion.
That is a good point, dude. I got to give you my quick Sproul story since we're on this, and we'll get back. I think you know this, Nathan.
With Roscoe.
With Roscoe,
Yeah.
Zach Roscoe was a spiritual father and mentor to me. He was a black man who grew up in the Deep South, segregated South, Kings Mountain, North Carolina. He came to faith in the early 90s. He was serving as, I think, a deacon, then elder at the church that I was first called to after seminary, my E-Free Church in Baltimore. And, we just forged a really, really tight friendship. And we went to the first T4G conference in 2006. Were you there, Zach, by chance?
No, I have not yet been to one of those.
Yes. That was the first one, and my memory of that is that it was kind of a surprise. That was when the whole Young Restless Reform thing was just really beginning to blossom and get traction. So, they had like over 3,000 people crammed into a ridiculously tiny area at the Galt House Hotel. And then eventually they went to the most horribly named conference center in the world, the Yum Yum Center. Literally the Yum Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky, because of the KFC sponsorship. My daughter just saw Taylor Swift on Saturday night at Lincoln Field where the Eagles play. That sounds all right. It's a financial thing or whatever. But the Yum Yum Center. But anyway, I digress. Here we are in 2006, and Roscoe was this very incredibly humble man, as Nathan would certainly verify. Yeah. Loved Sproul, just embraced Reformed theology, which obviously in his background and culture, incredibly unusual for a black man coming out of the roots that he traced himself back to. So he just couldn't get enough of these guys. He's listening to Sproul and Piper and all these guys. We're in line one morning, and because the place was so overrun, we must be like 250 back from ever getting any food. And you hear a little rustle, and R.C. Sproul and his wife Vesta are walking out, and they're almost being, it's like we're the paparazzi. Everybody's like, it's Dr. Sproul. The way, Christian nerdy people do, like I do. And they're walking out, and we've all got our name tags on, and everybody's saying, morning, Dr. Sproul, Mrs. Sproul, morning. And he's smiling with that kind of squinty-eyed, Columbo-type grin that he had. And he walks by me and Roscoe, and then when he's a foot past us, he doubles back, looks at our name tags, and goes, Vesta, come here, honey. I found him. And points at my name tag and says, Greg Ducher and Roscoe Adams. And he goes, your buddy Donald Sands. And Donald Sands was an elder with us at my former church that was a pen pal of Sproul. Sproul wrote back every letter he ever wrote him. Just some no-name guy, Don Sands, in Baltimore, Maryland. And he says, your buddy Don Sands has virtually harassed me that you two guys were going to be here. And he goes, if I didn't find you, I was going to call you out at the start of my next session. And so
that would have been even better.
Well, that's the whole thing. So we shook his hand, and we kind of shrugged and walked off. And then, there was a little buzz, and then everybody went back to waiting. And then I just said to Roscoe, I said, Roscoe, do you feel like just the biggest stud right now in front of all these guys that Sproul just singled us out? And he goes, I do. I'm not going to lie. And I said, be honest, Roscoe, is there a part of you that was hoping that he didn't see us so he would have called us out in front of everybody? And Roscoe goes, pardon me. That's all I wanted. So we've often thought, or we used to talk about this, that, Don must have told him, 3,000 people there, what he wasn't reading every name tag. Right. He must have told him that a big, tall, fat, bald white guy and a shorter, skinny, bald black guy, because there were probably like 6 black guys there at that conference at that time. Right. I think it's changed. So.
Pre-Thabiti.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It was pre-Thabiti. That's exactly right. So, that was my little moment in the sun with R.C. Sproul. I'm sure it shaped his life and theology and outlook. I bet. Well, held on to that memory.
Since it didn't happen publicly and it was probably a quieter conversation, you're free to tell people like, oh yeah, he was talking to me about that loan I gave him, or you can shape the narrative.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Or I could say, yeah, he was picking my brain on his book. The Last Days According to Jesus. He had some, eschatological nuance that he wanted me to help him with and stuff.
What you should have done,
eschatological?
Yeah, I think I just said.
Eschatology is a real thing.
Right. Yeah.
Eschatology both have to do with ends, just different kinds.
Exactly. But, that's true. That's right. I want to emphasize the S in the eschatology. Yes.
You should have just let him talk to you and shake your hand and talk for a minute. Right when he was about to walk away, just loudly shout, I told you I'm not writing the forward for your book. Last time.
Oh, my goodness. That would have been incredible. Incredible, man. Yeah, but I do miss the guy. What a tremendous teacher. One of my absolute favorite teachers. He just had such a way about it. You know what I like about Sproul, too? Since I know we weren't planning to talk about it. Sproul was he was a down-to-earth dude, too.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm just saying, I mean, who doesn't love Piper? Piper is a phenomenal communicator, phenomenal preacher. Because of, and we've talked about this before, Nathan, some of his, what I would call monastic qualities. And I've heard Barnabas talk about that, Zach, pretty frequently in other settings, how his father's the real deal. There's no pretense there. But all these guys that want to be like Piper, that frankly aren't like Piper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By DNA and just the way they're wired, but they're trying to do some crappy imitation of his monastic, don't waste your life kind of approach, and it comes across then. Sproul, I mean, I'm not doubting his love for the Lord. I think anybody would say that was very pronounced, but just like a down-to-earth dude.
Yeah.
Like he would, I'd hear him say in a moment, I was so frustrated with this person. I'm like, oh man, I love that he's saying that. Real, accessible, and this brilliant theological mind on top of it. Just, so
and you can imagine him ordering a hit, though, is the thing.
Yeah, right. You could, man, that's so true. Well, dude, the thing is, in that 06 conference, he called this dude out because they were, I mean, even back then his health was an issue in 06, and they must have given, just gobs and gobs of warning. Please, when Dr. Sproul is here, no flash photography. He has a condition that makes him very sensitive to bright lights, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw it happen. Roscoe and I were sitting off to the side, kind of near the front, and this dude in the middle gets up with this huge, almost caricature of a camera, like something out of a 50s film or something, and the bulb flashes. You almost can
eject the bulb each time and pop a new one in.
See the smoke sizzle in the air and all this stuff.
Get the big curtain over his head.
That's what it was. So strange in this flash of light. And then there was an awkward 3 or 4 minutes where Sproul was taking this guy on. And you could, everybody was laughing like it was a joke, but we were like, he's not joking. He's like, yeah, he goes, you and me, we're going to have a come meet Jesus meeting. It was interesting. It was a standout to me. I always dig that about Sproul. Sorry, you didn't mean to go off on the Sproul thing.
Right? He's got like the big bear of a man Spurgeon thing. He had it going on.
Or he did. Yes. Yeah, no doubt, man. No, I haven't seen the Calvinist film. I'll check it out just because of Mr. Bartle's recommendation.
Have you seen? Well, I appreciate Reverend Bartles if you're going to be formal.
The Reverend Dr. Bartles.
We'll sit down and we'll watch it and have the Reverend King comment on it.
Yes. Dude,
have you guys seen an old one called The Amazing Grace, the history and theology of Calvinism?
Yes, I do think I saw that one because
that one was
James Kennedy in it.
Yeah, it had a lot of D. James Kennedy doing the whole we all say all the time, like for 45 minutes belaboring the point. But it had RC, and then it had RC Sproul Jr. Yes. And honestly, man, a lot of people had huge beef with him, but I think he's kind of legit as well.
Yeah.
I got to one of the conferences they had up here near D.C. He actually was one of the guest speakers, and I think he was one of my favorite speakers because he was just, like you said, he was just so down to earth and real, and somebody I really felt like I could relate to. Having a conversation with.
Yeah, I agree. They were, well, I mean, I don't know if you are, Zach, because Nathan, I know you're not a sports dude. Yeah. Neither is Heartland. Are you a sports guy, Zach?
Oh, yes. I love watching sports and talking sports.
Yeah, Nathan is signaling to me that this might not be the case. But, yeah, it's funny because Sproul was a sports guy, so he would talk football, big Steelers guy and stuff. And, there's some dudes that are into that. I'm moderately into it. But I had to say this really quick. Am I the first to have this dawn on me? Why hasn't there been a podcast where we link the Reverend James King with the Reverend Bartles? And of course we would call it what, gentlemen?
Oh, Bartles and James! Oh my goodness! I don't think he would take part in such an enterprise, in that he's a teetotaler, though.
I doubt he would know what Bartles and James is.
You're right.
Dude, it's like the comedian I saw years ago that spent 45 minutes ripping the Amish, which began to make me and Lisa feel uncomfortable because I'm like, man, the Amish. And then his last line was, I like ripping on the Amish because how are they ever going to find out? So,
Brad Stein, dude. That's who that was.
yeah, that's what. I think that was Brad Stein.
And Brad Stein was a funny comedian before he was like a prepper nut job on Fox News.
You're right. That's so true, man. That's so true. So, yeah, Bartles and James, just keep it in mind, Nathan, as a future.
I'm on board. I'm always looking to add another, like a ninth podcast to the stable.
You just got to tell your wife, honey, listen, I've got to do this. This is gospel ministry. Me and the Reverend James King.
Can anyone get a quick tally for how many are saved from this program? Just so.
Oh my goodness! Yep, I think the tally's over. There we have it. Oh my goodness! If you could try to recover where you wanted to take this podcast, man.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Happy 200.
You were going to talk about the birth of the podcast, favorite moments, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're done talking about Missional Wear.
Right.
Old news.
Yeah. Missional Wear, that's the kind of sponsorship you envisioned.
That's right.
When you hitched your wagon to us, man. Absolutely.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's funny because Heartland texted me because, Greg, you and I actually never really thought of this. And Zach and I only briefly think of it, but Heartland was really kind of like, he liked pondering and contemplating topics. I think Zach kind of does, but I don't actually humor him in that. So, he texted me. He was like, "Hey, what's our topic?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's the 200th, so maybe we'll kind of like reflect back on the podcast. Favorite episodes, things like that, and wherever the topics take us, they take us. So the whole Sproul thing, it's perfect. It's just kind of something that came up and we roll with it. So, I think that's kind of one of the things that I really like about this podcast is we have a general idea of what we want to talk about, but we're not necessarily locked into it. We free flow through the conversation and just let it go where it is. And Greg, that's something you and I really had. I remember we would sit down and be like, yep, this is what we're going to talk about. And usually it was a few minutes beforehand. And a lot of times it just kind of, we might start talking about this thing and then it just goes off in a whole nother direction.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's times when it's just like life. That's what happens. And the best moments, we've talked about this before, tend to be the spontaneous ones. And you guys have all had that experience, right? Like, I don't know, Lisa and I had, friends over one time kind of spontaneously. We didn't think it was going to happen. And then, some bizarre set of random circumstances just kind of fell in the right place. And, you get together and then maybe you're at a restaurant and the sunset that night is great. And you're having a conversation that you never would have thought you had. And it was so good. And then like a year later, you try to reproduce it and it sucks. You know what I mean? Like you almost can't. It's just the moment was there. And that's why, Zach, I just want to tell you, I'm no longer doing sermon prep. I'm just going up with my Bible.
Good for you.
I just tell people to randomly pick a passage of the Bible and shout it out. And we'll see what the Word says. And then you get passages like Mark Sweeney's favorite, Nathan, which First Kings, Second Kings, and then it says, and then we boiled his son and ate him, and you just edify your congregation that way. So I'm
and then
kidding.
Someone else stands up and says, "Now go therefore and do likewise."
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the old and what you're about to do quickly. And, those things. But no, I would do some prep for the sermon, but I like to leave a little bit of room for whatever it may be.
Nice.
But, dude, I have to think, 2014, was that the first?
2015. It
was 2015.
February 2015.
That's right. We were meeting at the end of 14.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, we started meeting, I think we started meeting around September.
That sounds right.
And progressively throughout October and November, we were increasing our meetings because we weren't going to meet during December because that was getting busy for the church and, working through all the December stuff and Christmas stuff. And so we were like, okay, well, we're not going to meet in December. We'll come back. We'll meet in January. And initially we were going to do a January release.
Yeah.
We got into January and we figured that we still didn't really have everything that we were looking for to put the podcast together. So we made a hard date of February. So, yep. I think it was February 2nd. I think it was 2/2/15.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Zach, you might know this because I have just the feeling you have your finger on the publishing pulse, certainly better than Nathan and I do. Because we were envisioning a blog. There was a while everybody wanted to kind of replicate what Challies pulled off. And dude, I don't even know. I'll be honest, I haven't checked out Challies in a while. And is that still a thing? Am I like outing myself as a complete idiot? Do you know, Zach?
I think if you go on Challies.com, there's a big buy button for your book, and that's it.
Dude,
no, he's still rolling. He's still going for sure. He's still an influencer.
That's what I figured because he was one of the first guys doing it, and has been so faithful. I mean, Tim is nothing but if he's not a workhorse. I just got an email. I don't know if you guys got it from Cruciform. That I have a feeling that my little book there, Killing Calvinism, is going to be probably outsold since their newest author is a dude named John Piper.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Did you see that? It was like it's about 10 things about God that astonish us. It's something in that ballpark. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Piper's going to sell more books than I sold. I know, it's radical. But Jesus was radical, and I want to be like him. So that's a prediction that I have. But yeah, Cruciform is still rocking and rolling. Challies has got his hands in a number of things. Hey, can I throw something out there to you guys on that?
Yeah.
And just since we're literally no script here, Zach, have you kept up with Challies' new thing he's doing, the greatest sermons ever preached, that video series he's doing?
Not a bit, nope.
Okay.
I just found out about it now.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Right now.
Right now. I'll just say quickly, I'll tell you what, I'll use the 80s phrase, I'll put a pin in it so we can come back to it at some other point. But he did one that our mutual friend Carrie sent me.
Okay.
And it's incredibly well done. The production value is off the charts. I mean, it's like Dateline newsworthy stuff. And he did a little bit, a 10-minute bit on how Chandler preached a sermon at Furtick's church back like in 2012 at his Code Orange revival or something.
Yeah, that was a great sermon.
Yes. And he does this whole bit on this, and I've got comments. I had a different reaction than a number of people on that. But since you guys haven't seen it, I'll just throw it out now and tease the listeners that maybe that's a topic we visit at some other point. How's that sound?
Well, it sounds like you might be sticking around a little bit, Dutcher.
Well, I'm telling you, man, this has just created in me a raging appetite to do this at least once every 2.5 years. So, I feel when you've got that kind of passion bubbling up inside you, you've got to start planning future podcasts.
Careful it doesn't become an idol, you know?
Anyway, I just throw that out there, but go on, dude. Go on. I'm going to stop talking and let you guys take over here. Hey, Heartland just said, wow, I missed it. Is it too late?
Yeah, so let's
Yes.
Well, I mean, when are we going to end this thing here, dude? At like 14 minutes?
let's go ahead and dial him in.
Yeah, let's
see what happens.
Bring him in for the third act, right?
Yeah, for the last 12 minutes of the podcast here.
All right, let's see what happens.
Let me have an encouragement verse for Steve when he gets on. Double-minded man, unstable in all his ways, tossed about by every wind of doctrine. I'm looking up some stuff for his edification.
Hello?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Steve?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Steve Heartland, how
are you? Oh, man, I'm stupid. That's how I am.
No, you
I am
not.
so sorry. I've just been, hanging out, watching a little TV. Totally forgot. It's when something out of the ordinary happens, I'm in danger of missing it.
Yes.
That's funny.
We were contemplating whether you were still among the land of the living. And I said, I think there's a 50-50 chance, I was telling Zach, that you're still with us, Steve. So,
Oh, no. So I've got Steve on one end and I've got Zach on the other, and it's not letting me merge the calls.
No way. So
we're just going to keep swapping back and forth.
Yeah, we just blocked Zach out, huh?
Hold on. So, Zach, I'm explaining that I called Steve up, and for some reason, Skype is not letting me merge these calls.
Weird. Okay. Do you want me to hang up and dial in, and you can add me to that call, or what would be best?
Let's see if we can do that. All right. So, Steve, Zach's going to go ahead and try to dial in. So, this is almost as good as the 100th one.
We're dangerously approaching the 100th episode level of incompetence.
Now, have you got?
Oh.
So we got
working
Zach
now?
Well, we got Zach, but we lost Steve.
And he was about to ask something. He said, "Have you got?"
All right, let's try this again. This is great.
You need to buy Skype's premium service to add enough.
Zach, I was just saying that I think
Zach's on hold again.
What is this, like Memento? We can only hold a 30-second conversation with somebody, Steve, and then they're gone.
So, have you guys been waiting all evening, just sitting there for 40 minutes? Or
no, dude, we've been chatting. We just podcasted and said, hey, if Heartland calls, we'll just let them on in. And I'm glad, Steve.
Wow!
Even
all
if
right.
your
good,
cameo, you made it. So, I mean, I got to suggest.
All right, I'm glad you were already podcasting.
Hang on a second. I'm going to pause this thing for a second. We discovered the technical difficulty, and Steve will not be joining us.
Hey, it was great to have the cameo of him.
Yeah.
I think this gives proof positive verification to the theory that Zach Bartles and Steve Heartland are the same person.
Are you guys ready for the transformation? This is how I talk when I'm stupid.
Dude, you sound like a motorcycle buff guy, man. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah, that was not a bad Heartland, I must say. Zach, did you ever podcast with Heartland in the transition? I couldn't remember.
I did indeed. Yeah, I was. In fact, let's transition over to favorite memories here.
Yeah.
I think that the two best eps before I came on as co-host was the one where you and Nathan, the two of you guys, had me on, and the one where Steve and Nathan had me on. Those were quality eps.
They were, man. They were the memorable ones, dude. Yes, no doubt about it. So, yeah, you guys did, you had a little cross-pollination there. So maybe they're not the same person, but, brothers from another mother or something like that.
I don't know. I think the Reverend King's made an appearance on once or twice when you've been on, Greg.
Yeah, that's true. And some people have this cockamamie theory that we're the same guy.
Good grief. People will believe anything. You know what I mean?
Philistines.
Yeah, so true. But, dude, favorite episode, and I just wondered, did you ever try to get Sam Alberry back on? I feel like we did, and it didn't materialize or something.
No, we were going to, and then you left the show.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Dude, I just pulled up my memo. Get Alberry back on the podcast, and then I left the podcast. Dang on it. That's right. That was money, man. Your quote there was just perfectly dropped.
I've had so many people emailing me or texting me or whatever, and like, hey, weren't you going to do a blah 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 episode? Weren't you going to do a blah 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 episode? It's like, yeah, we've kind of been in a lot of transitions in the past year.
Yes, yeah, we were going to do that, and then we didn't. But Alberry, dude, that was I think wasn't Matt Smith joining us for that one?
He did, yeah. Yep, because he had actually just finished preaching a sermon series on homosexuality. On like engaging gay
in
culture.
Yep, I remember that. And yeah, Alberry. Zach, have you ever read his stuff or seen any of his stuff that he's put out? On
Remind me what that is. I think, yeah.
Yeah, his little book, they were featuring it like it.
Is God Anti-Gay?
Exactly. Yeah, that was his book.
Spectacular resource.
Oh, it's so
good. And I remember that ep. That was a good ep.
Yeah, that was just. I remember the real standout line for me is we asked him Sam, do you believe, or maybe it was phrased, if somebody comes to us and says, does the gospel promise deliverance from same-sex attraction in this life? What do you say? And he was just made no bones about it and said no. He says, the gospel could lead to that. And in many cases, he believes that it has.
Yep.
But I believe he tied the guarantee to heaven, the eternal state.
Yep.
And that what we're called to do in the meantime, while we're waiting for, it's kind of almost classic Piper, right? Waiting for the darkness to lift, fighting for joy in the meantime. Saw himself as no different than a guy that is attracted to members of the opposite sex but isn't married.
Yep.
How's that dude called to walk, right? I mean, he's called to, be celibate, to live before God and trust him for provision. And he just, I'm not even doing it justice. I just remember Albury just had so much wisdom on that subject, and he's so transparent and vulnerable.
Yeah.
One of my standouts.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thinking back, Zach, I'm going to say this in audience, and you might think I'm, really throwing this out there, but the two of the standouts. One in particular was when you joined us for the Christmas ep we did a couple years ago.
It was fun.
And I remember we were talking with you, and we were talking before we went on, and you were just asking Greg, so I've sent you all these books and resources, like how much of this have you read? And Greg was just like, well, I've got a stack of it over on my desk.
Yeah. Zach,
then he sent a picture of the stack. This freaking guy. It's like you're nearing the top of the stack.
Yeah, that's true, dude.
Am I still getting close to the top?
Yes. Zach, I'm happy to say now that the good thing is you're not at the bottom of the stack. I just no longer know where the stack is. Dude, like a guy I know who once told me that was trying to assess me in terms of my spiritual giftedness, because Dutcher, look, you have clear ministry gifts. We just don't know what they are. So that is there. But, dude, I have said, I'm not going to keep promising anymore.
Don't bother.
Bartles.
I didn't even want you to read them. Right. So that reminds me, though, I was actually on 3 times then, because we did that. We recorded that Christmas one in like August or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Which made me think you guys were working way ahead of the curve, and that was just a huge anomaly at the end of the day.
That was. They thought these are the most prepared guys in podcasting.
Well, that was the one thing I say we did well. Because we tried to do that with Steve this year too. We try to get ahead for the Christmas ones, because December is just so hard for everyone.
Anybody, man.
And we try to just jump ahead of that and really start working on our Christmas schedule around the end of September, and try to nail everything down by October, November, so that way by the time December hits, really by the time Thanksgiving hits,
they're just in the
they're saved up.
And
And unlike this, past summer, usually when they're saved up, they get released once a week. Yeah. But, usually I also have internet that I can work with.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, there's a Stephen King story called Bag of Bones. It wasn't one of his best. I don't know if either guys ever read it. But the main character in the book, as is often the case with a King novel, is a writer. I'm not sure why he does that, but the main character is this dude, and he's like having a total writer's block. If I remember rightly, I think he's a widower. His wife died rather suddenly, and he's obviously battling depression and these sort of things. And nobody knows that he's struggling so badly. So he's up in this cabin in Maine that he paints it so well, and then he he's got a contract to get these books in once a year. And at some prior point when he was in a really productive mode, he had 4 manuscripts that he kept in like a safe somewhere in Portland, Maine. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So he had 4 years that he could kind of wander. And I'm trying to get to the point, Zach, where I have 4 years of sermons.
Just repreach the same ones. Nobody notices that.
Dude, I've often thought, how far back do you have to go in your stack and nobody would remember it? Is it like
I've done it? I've gone back 4 years.
Yeah.
And I had one guy. This guy, he's real He's got Asperger's, which he's very open about, and the struggles and the blessings of it. The blessings of it is that he can remember things almost perfectly. And sometimes that's not a blessing for me, because I'll say something in a class and he'll be like, well, on October 16 you said, and he'll just no. And he goes, that was the same as the message you called such and such. And I said, well, I changed 2 of the illustrations. Yeah. Other than that, my wife didn't notice. Nobody noticed. I mean, really, how many times you need to hear the same content before it really sinks in and you're going to recall it?
So true, dude. So true. Yeah, I've done that and been – it is. It's a blessing and a curse, because it's sort of humbling to realize how short-lived the sermons are in the minds of most listeners, right? You painted the gentleman there with Asperger's as the exception, which they would be, because most people don't. You're right, wives included, that don't remember. So I'm like, honey, do you remember that sermon that rocked you and you were riveted by? She doesn't. But I've often wondered if I just went back and repreached, what I did a year ago in the same sequence, when would people say, I'm pretty sure we've heard this before, which is why, dude, ours is like a Mission Impossible sermon archive that after listening, it self-destructs. So there's no more record of that sermon.
It's not online. Right. You can't podcast these things.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But yeah, no, it has, dude, think the iterations of this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, have really...
Well, it's funny you say that, because, I mean, we've talked about this before, but let's go back to the beginning. The initial idea, like you said, Greg, was this was going to be a blog.
Yeah.
And we were gonna set up a website. Your publisher had basically come to you and, was like, we want you to do a lot more promotion. Mm-hmm. And so you would come to me and, you were like, hey, do you think we can set up a website, get a blog going, and maybe do some short sound clips?
I'm so sorry, but what a baby boomer thing to do. Hey, can you help me set up a website and a blog?
So Nathan sent me the link to, let me Google that for you.
Greg, YouTube.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
That thing would be dead now, by the way. Is there anybody reading blogs anymore? It'd be the end of it.
Oh yeah.
No way.
Yeah, no
way.
And so we were going to have this whole thing set up, and it was one of the times we were meeting, and I think it was November. It was like, hey, let's switch and start doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And I joke about this, and I was like, hey, what's a podcast? And people have called me out on that. You didn't know what a podcast was? It's like, I generally knew what a podcast was, but like, I had known them more in the context of like listening to sermons and things like that.
Right.
It's
a lot
like
of people do sermon podcasts.
Yeah. So the idea of what we were going to do on a podcast kind of eluded me. And so we started talking and hashing things out. And it was like, why don't we just do what we're doing now? I think we were sitting in a Starbucks or a Chick-fil-A, and it's like we had jumped around from, talking serious business about what we were going to do to, I think we were talking about the latest Marvel movie that came out. Yeah. And like we had jumped around all these different topics, and it's like, well, why don't we do what we're doing now? And what we'll kind of do is, after I preach a sermon on Sunday, we'll kind of wrap up and expand on some ideas and topics. Yep. And that's where we were kind of going for a while. And then it was like, hey, I've got these other preacher buddies who want to come on and talk about some things too. And so I think we only did like 2 where we did follow-ups to what you talked about on Sunday.
That's right.
And then it was like we started getting preachers and speakers and book writers and authors and
kickbacks.
Yeah.
Exactly, brother. Exactly.
All those unread books that we have stacked up.
Dude,
compulsively collecting books.
John Frame's Systematic Theology looks really nice on my shelf. One of these days,
kill a big spider with it, man. This is heavy.
One of these days, Zach, that book is going to be opened by my great grandchildren. Like, what is this thing that was in this?
And then sold for more money.
Exactly.
I don't think I wasn't listening back when you made that transition.
Yeah.
I've mentioned before, first one I listened to, I was on Twitter, saw somebody mention these go to 11, and is Breaking Bad the greatest TV show of all time?
Yeah.
And I was like, I've heard of that, and I popped it in, and I listened to it, and it was a super great discussion. And then I subscribed to that deal.
Yeah.
That was a great one. Let me hit you with two more before you return to your. I was going to tune you back out again because of.
We see these
nostalgia.
key phrases every once in a while where Zach pops back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I loved the one about lying. Is lying always a sin?
Oh, yeah.
What a great, spectacular discussion that was.
Yeah.
And then the one that we just were talking about, I don't remember why, but you and I were just talking about this, Nathan. The calling out KDY one.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that one because it pissed me off when I listened to it.
Yeah.
Because I had retweeted that article. I had been all like righteously indignant, like, yeah, how dare we as the church, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time the thing was done, I was just like, yeah, that. So it's for them to change my mind over the course of a podcast is a pretty big deal when it comes to matters of, faith and principle. And by the end, I was, we shouldn't be binding the consciences, especially of elders and pastors in regards to what they do in their own congregations. So that was a really good one too. And then I think my favorite one since I've been around on the week to week tip has probably been I have to say either the one where we talked about like Stephen Hawking and Billy Graham and kind of delved into that.
Yep.
Or the heroes of our faith one. I think a lot of people were texting about that. My least favorite one was when we had the author on with his
Evan
book
David,
with
the atheist.
And insofar as I thought that he ruined it, but we were still awesome.
Yeah. I didn't hear that one, but I heard the D&D one you guys did very recently.
Yeah,
that was fascinating.
Actually, I think, Zach, since you've been on, that has been in one of my top favorites that you and I have done was the D&D one. I thought that was a great one.
It's like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a lot to talk about with D&D, man. There's no doubt about it.
If you're Nathan, there sure is.
Yeah, my wife swears she has such an aversion to that stuff, and when I take my boys into that world and we geek out on Marvel cinematic theories and all the subcategory minutia of comic book golden ages and this stuff, she's like, wow, you're scaring me. Because she always sort of prided herself that had she met me in my D&D phase when I was rocking a mullet in high school, there may not have been a Mr. and Mrs. Dutcher. Well, there would have been, but it wouldn't have been each other. So,
oh, Zach,
I also like that Turkish one. That was a great one.
We
should have him on again.
Yes, so I would love to do one with him and Greg. Maybe when the next Infinity movie comes out, we can have the four of us on geeking out about that one. I think that would be pretty cool.
Who was that was on?
Frank Turk.
Oh, Frank Turk, of course. Yeah. That's
now, assuming that Frank Turk has Skype.
Right. Yeah.
No, he does have Skype. We know this because I Skyped you and him at the same time.
Yes, okay.
Right, which is a minor miracle, apparently.
And it actually worked, yeah.
You and Steve never had a remote episode? You were always in the same room?
No, we did. The difference
was
we used FaceTime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we used FaceTime.
Different platform.
Yep.
I got you.
So, but I didn't actually realize it because Skype on the iPod will apparently call whatever medium the other person has.
Yeah.
And so even though he doesn't have Skype and I was calling him from Skype, it automatically tapped into his FaceTime because that's what he had.
I see.
So,
what kind of cultic weird stuff are you guys getting into since I've been calling mediums and stuff? That makes me a little bit nervous. Like I might need to call the good Reverend Doctor.
Yeah,
well, we've just been holding seances and roaming in tunnels and
steam tunnels.
That's right. The steam tunnels of Michigan.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Zach. You coming? I've loved that. Heartland jumped in when I jumped out, and then you jumped in, Zach. That was big. Hey, you know who's got to be around sometime? Not that we ever want Bartles to leave, but maybe he's an addition. Where is Al Trogi these days, Zach? I've kind of lost touch. What podcast has he started and stopped and all this kind of stuff in the last few months?
In the course of when we've been recording this, he's started and stopped 3, actually. But, I got an email. Ted Cluck was over here. My wife flew Ted up here for 4 days, 3 days recently as a birthday gift to me.
Nice.
Everybody was out of the house, just me and Ted and a billion cigars and awesome. Some bad movies. And we were both just kind of sitting there smoking and perusing our devices for a few minutes. And I go, I just got a message from El Trogi telling me he really likes my writing and asking me to contribute to the Blazing Center again because I haven't in like a year.
Yeah.
And a moment later, Ted goes, I got the exact same message. You can see the little $ name thing that fills in your information.
Oh, my goodness. That is funny. What does that say that I didn't get that message?
Anyway, I don't know, man.
Anyway, I digress. Hey, I'm not offended, Steve. It's fine.
Actually, it's funny you say that, Greg, because Zach and I were actually talking about getting Al Trogi on and doing one with him.
Yeah. We've had him before. Remember? He was great. Yeah, Steve's always great. It's just great. Remember, I enjoyed, we did the Stephen King one with Tracy Smith.
Yep.
Remember with him?
We did that one.
He's a huge King geek.
Yep.
As am I. And, dudes, by the way, reading halfway through one now called Revival, which, again, I recognize that everyone's conscience will lead them in different directions with Stephen King, but it is awesome.
Hey, it sounds like you're reading a lot of fiction over there, Dutcher.
And Bartles is up next.
When you say people's consciences, I meant to mention in my show prep, which is where I was driving home and I thought about this for 13 seconds. I meant to mention
prep.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things in the Breaking Bad episode was when you were talking about like the content and how some people would say like, how can you watch that? If you wouldn't let your kids watch it, why would you want to watch it? And you said, well, I don't let my kids drink alcohol and I don't let my kids have sex, but I do those things. Yeah. And I've said that to at least 3 people since then. I put that in my hip pocket.
Yes, I forgot about that until you said that. That's right. And I probably stole that quote from somebody. Like, I'd love that to be original.
Oh,
to me,
just take it.
Right. Again, if nobody's claiming it, just quote it. Yeah, that was Josh Mitchell, who probably should get a little shout out here as we're probably pulling some of these final threads together. But he is, instrumental in every way to this podcast, right, dude? Because he set us up.
Yeah, he got us up and running, and he hung around for the first few episodes to show me what I needed to do to be self-sufficient and keep things going. So, I mean, if it wasn't for him, I probably could have figured this out, but it would have taken me a lot longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He really stepped in, and
kid.
He really stepped in, and even still today, I'll go to Josh and ask for tips and advice and things that I could be looking out for. So,
although Josh does not like. Zach, do you use the Blue Yeti microphone, or is that an Al Trogi thing? I feel like I've heard some of you guys talk about that.
I used to use a Blue Nomad. Is that what you're talking about? Or a Blue, what's it called?
I thought it was called the Blue Yeti. It was
Yeti Blue Snowball, right? Yeah. I used one of those.
Okay.
And it broke on me, and I'm too cheap to replace it. So I use a regular vocal mic from my GarageBand days in the 90s. And I just have a little gizmo I plug into it that makes it work with my computer, and it sounds better to me than the podcasting mics, the high compression mics.
Yeah, because that's what Josh was not a fan of.
Yep.
He did not like those Blue Yeti, and they were all the rage for a while when we first started.
Well, because they were like $100, and they said that they claimed to be
to do it all
the HD perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not what you're using over there, are you?
No.
I don't know what these are.
I think so.
We're doing probably something similar to you, Zach. Although
you got an SM58, I think I saw a picture of it.
Yeah, yep.
That's what I've got too. Yeah.
Yep. And so what we're mixing through is slightly more advanced, but yeah, the mics that we're using. And so when Nathan Bartlebaugh and I do the podcast for he actually does have a Yeti mic. So when you're listening to those, that's what we're recording on, are the Yeti mics.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. And what about Bartlebaugh? Has he been on recently? I've lost touch.
So he has not been on since probably since you've been on, Greg. I think the last one we all did together was probably Stranger Things.
Yeah. Is that
Christmas or one of the Christmas episodes?
Yeah. I think we did Stranger Things, and then we did one with Christmas because Ben was on the Stranger Things one.
Yep.
Yeah, and he'd love to get back on, man. That kid would. Maybe that one has phased, but. Dude, you guys covered Infinity War, right? Ben has seen Infinity War, saw it twice with me because we saw it, dude. Remember? Yeah, that was the second time.
Yep.
And then with other friends, he's since seen it 2 more times.
Nice.
Spent his own money. So I'm teaching him wise stewardship, how to invest his money in kingdom advancement. And,
eternal return.
Yeah, he has. And he has got... Dude, and did you guys see Reddit this week? It was actually a news story I saw, like on Entertainment Weekly or whatever it was. But cool new theory. Have you guys heard the Doctor Strange theory that when he hands the stone to Thanos, it's glowing? Remember, he kind of makes it appear like it was a star in the sky. And this dude on Reddit, and it's like risen to the top of the geek boards, but it's gained all this traction, has suggested that it only glows when it's doing what it's supposed to do. So why is it glowing in that scene? And the theory is that Doctor Strange sent it forward in time so that it'll be there when Tony and what's the other robotic chick that's still alive that didn't vanish? Gamora's sister. Gamora's sister.
Nebula.
That he's sending the stone forward, and the reason it's glowing for Thanos is because he's called it back from time. So this guy has this theory, and there's a lot of layers to it, etc. But I got to say, I read it, pretty coherent, that in a sense, Tony's going to have access to a future version of the time thing.
The time stone.
The time stone.
Interesting. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, who knows? But anyway, I missed that when you guys covered that, man.
Yeah, that was when we had Turk on.
Yes, that's right. Oh,
yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Loved it. I assume, Zach, you're a MCU guy.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I've been a comic book guy since the late '80s.
Oh,
pretty obsessive. So
absolutely.
we were both Turkish and I both have like the original Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War comics, sleeved and boarded. So we had a really nerdy conversation.
I bet. Yeah, my son Ben bought those in preparation for Infinity War, and he was telling me about Adam Warlock and all the differences in the comic world, and of course, then they could bring in all the what we think of as the Fox characters, right? I'm not trying to repeat that episode. I'm just jealous that I missed it, dudes.
No, it's all good. It's all good. This is what we do on this podcast. We jump around from topic to topic.
Yeah, especially when I'm here.
ADHD kicks in.
The ADHD train just keeps on going.
Oh, man.
I love it.
Dude, this has been great. 200 episodes. We've got Greg back on. Steve makes a cameo appearance.
Yes.
Did you get a moment on FaceTime with him to even like insert into the audio?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, dude, I'm going to leave the whole like jumping back and forth between the two of you in there.
Yeah, dude, that shows the organic connection between this and the 100th episode. You know, just abhorrent nature of the two episodes. They merge in that moment. It's like the time stone is being passed forward from that moment and back to that crap sandwich moment a year and a half ago, whatever that was. Man. Hey, listen, I'm telling you, I'm going to say it again, and you can hold me accountable. When I'm back on, I want to have read a Zach Bartles book because I still got the summer, and I've got my fiction reading going. Almost done Revival. Zach, I've only got 17 more novels to read first. And you are one of the options beyond that.
You know, it's how sometimes people laugh on the outside, but the words are hurting on the inside.
He's going full Zach Braff on Scrubs. to Dr. Cox, every time you call me a girl's name, a little piece of me inside dies. So I get it, man. I get it.
Oh man, that's great. Dudes, this has been so much fun. Love having the new guard Zach on, the old guard Greg on. It's been great. Good topics, good fun. I don't know that we had a string of conscious, coherent conversation on here, but it was still fun nonetheless, and that's what we do on this thing, right?
Yes. In my mind, there was a whole monkeys on a unicycle, red rubber balls being juggled that stayed with me the entire time.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah.
Greg projected it through the microphone.
I did, man. It's like the time stone again. There it is.
Oh, dudes, that was great. Oh, man. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Hope everyone enjoyed. We're looking forward to more episodes to come once Zach and I figure out, where we're going with this thing and what we're going to do next. So, dudes, until next time, we just rocked the Casbah.
These go to 11.